Pope Paul then goes on. He says, God's love is unconditional, doesn't depend on our merits. He says that it doesn't even depend on our response. He loves us entirely as we are. We're free. The only pressure that God puts on us is the pressure of love itself. Now, that can be very, very difficult for us to reflect in our own relationships. To love one another, not looking for returns. Loving sometimes even when, in our judgment, the person doesn't deserve to be loved. Is this man Paul for real? I often feel for parents when I think of that characteristic. How desperately difficult it must be for you parents to let the family go their own way. To love them even when, in fact, you're finding that their way forward is not the way forward that you would like for them. To love and yet to let go. He then goes on, does Paul VI, to say that, our love is to exclude no one. Indeed, he says, if it does exclude anyone, then we should question our motivation of why we love other people. It questions the motivation of the rest of our relationships. Maybe one of the good things and very, consoling things for us, he points out that God works with us gradually. He deals with us in an ongoing way. Our plan of salvation progress step by step. Our dialogue too, he says, it must go on step by step. It must recognise, it must take cognizance of the people that we're working with, that how they're in fact developing at the same time. He points out that success or failure is not really up to you. It's not up to me. It's simply our job to work at it. Success, failure in relationships, not depending on us. It's depending on God, Paul VI says. God may make use of our relationships to bring it about in closeness and depth. It's our job simply to keep working at it. There are two final characteristics that I'd like to mention here, which Paul picks up in his document, namely trust and friendship. Trust, Pope Paul says, binds hearts together and it excludes all self-seeking. Cardinal Newman said that in his time, it was the inability of people to trust the secrets of their hearts to one another that was one of the principal reasons for the lack of sanctity. And who would possibly deny that lack of being able to trust each other is still a major problem in our time, in our own generation. Again, your own experience tells you that time and time again. If you reflect in some of your relationships where you feel that either you trusted or in fact you were trusted, and you saw that whole relationship coming alive, really deepening, really maturing. Think of the times, on the other hand, when perhaps you found a secret betrayed, a confidence broken. Can you remember the feeling? You're gutted. You really feel empty that somebody has betrayed something that was so precious. Pope Paul is able to say that where there is trust present in a relationship, there, he says, is God. God is almost physically present, as it were, in that relationship of trust. And finally, if we look at friendship, he says that the whole relationships thrive when there is friendship that's basically based on service, on being with one another, on creating an environment for one another, an environment of trust, an environment that really will lead us on and bring real growth in our lives, real growth in our relationships. It's not simply a matter of talking a good game. It's more of kind of creating an environment, an atmosphere of trust, an atmosphere of friendship and that through that, our relationships will grow and mature and flourish.